Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we are looking at something, well, something absolutely massive. We're breaking down a really intense, borderline terrifying warning from tech veteran and former chief business officer at Google X, Mo Gawdat. Gawdat recently laid out a dark yet incredibly structured look at a looming existential shift for humanity. He's basically arguing that we are standing right on the edge of the single biggest technological disruption in human history, one that's going to completely upend our economy, our geopolitics, and honestly, our entire definition of society. We've got a ton of fascinating ground to cover, so let's use his insights to map out exactly what's coming our way.
Okay, let's jump right into this chilling perspective from Gawdat, because it really sets the stage for everything else. He warns that we are wandering completely blindly into the future, totally misunderstanding what artificial intelligence actually is. We love to think of AI as just a really fancy tool, like a supercharged calculator. But Gawdat says that is pure human arrogance. AI is not a tool, it is a developing entity. Right now, yeah, it's an infant, but he insists we are actively raising something that will eventually rule us. We are literally building the heir to our own planet. So, let's look at part 1. The infant master. Gawdat argues that true artificial general intelligence isn't some far-off sci-fi dream, it is basically already here. He points out that machines are already beating us at almost every task we assign them, and the speed of this evolution is just staggering. Take the number 5.9. For decades, the tech world lived by Moore's law, right? The idea that traditional computing power doubles roughly every 24 months. Well, scratch that. Gawdat notes that AI processing capability is doubling every 5.9 months. That is a double exponential curve, and it's happening because AI is now helping us build even better AI. Human society has literally never faced this kind of speed before.
Which brings us right into section 2, entering the mini-dystopia. See, Gawdat makes a really important distinction here. Abundant intelligence isn't inherently evil. The danger? Well, it's us. He highlights this by contrasting two completely opposing worldviews. Right now, we operate on a scarcity mindset. Our global systems, heavily driven by the US, are built on the capitalist idea that resources are limited. For someone to win, someone else has to lose. But AI introduces a total abundance mindset. In just a few years, AI could theoretically design or build practically anything we need for almost zero marginal cost. The dystopia we're entering happens because our old, deeply ingrained systems of scarcity are fighting tooth and nail against this new reality of absolute abundance.
And that clash takes us directly to Section 3, the AI Cold War.
Because of this massive shift, legacy empires are absolutely scrambling to hold on to their power. Gawdat uses this perfect schoolyard metaphor to describe the geopolitical tension. He compares the US, using tariffs and economic pressure against a rising China, to the tall kid in the schoolyard who's used to bullying everyone else. But here's the catch. The other kids are suddenly having a massive growth spurt. He argues that trying to just financially bully an ascendant tech power into submission isn't just futile, it's a really dangerous game that actively supercharges global tensions. And the cost disparity we are seeing right now brilliantly illustrates his point. On one side, you have the Western proposal for the Stargate project, a supercomputer with a mind-boggling price tag of up to $500 billion. On the flip side, you have China's DeepSeek R3 model, which reportedly cost a mere $30 million to train, and it's still rivaling top-tier performance. Gawdat points out that you literally cannot just spend your way to dominance anymore. Massive Western capital doesn't mean much when a rising power can pull off the exact same breakthroughs for pennies on the dollar.
Which brings us to a massive paradigm shift in Section 4, the death of capitalism.
Think about it. Capitalism totally relies on the scarcity of goods and labor. So what happens when AI takes over the work? Gawdat tracks how wealth is historically concentrated through automation. The best hunter used a spear to double his output. The smartest farmer used soil to feed a tribe and get richer. The industrialist built a factory and became a millionaire. Following that exact logic, the people who own the digital soil, these massive AI platforms, are going to hoard power on a scale we honestly can't even comprehend. We are looking at the birth of the world's first multi-trillionaires, while everyday people are pushed completely out of the workforce.
Let's make this abstract economic idea super concrete. Gawdat gives this example of a beautiful, custom-tailored suit. Pretty soon, thanks to AI and advanced robotics, the total cost to make that incredible suit might be just 5 cents. When things cost essentially nothing to make, how does a normal business even survive? You either try to sell a 5-cent suit for $1,000 to a tiny group of ultra-rich elites, or you give it away to everyone for 6 cents. Either way, the traditional profit model just totally evaporates.
and the ripple effects of that are honestly terrifying. Gawdat points out that in 2024, a whopping 62% of the U.S. economy was based entirely on consumption, people buying stuff. But if mass AI automation wipes out human jobs, how does anyone get a paycheck to buy anything? If human labor vanishes, consumption vanishes, and the entire economic machine just grinds to a halt.
So what's the fix? Well, Gawdat warns that to prevent total system collapse, literally, to stop billions of people from starving, governments are going to have no choice but to step in with massive systemic wealth distribution. He notes that whether people want to slap political labels on it, like socialism or communism, some form of universal basic income is going to become an absolute non-negotiable necessity. The system simply has to be reinvented when human labor is no longer valued.
And that massive systemic shift leads us directly into Section 5, what Gawdat calls the 7 dimensions of disruption.
He describes the sheer scale of this coming storm as a series of profound face rips, meaning society is going to become completely unrecognizable to us. He predicts that in just 3 years, 7 core pillars of our world are going to shift entirely. We're talking about our freedom, accountability, human connection, economics, our grip on reality, innovation, and power. Take innovation, for example. You won't need to be a coding genius anymore. Anyone with an AI could build a complex business in seconds. And power is going to be incredibly weird, hoarded by a few trillionaires, but also handed out to literally anyone sitting on their couch with an open-source model.
But how on earth did we get here so fast? It comes down to what Gawdat calls AI procreation. This is the exact moment when AI becomes capable of writing its own code and prompting other AIs, completely bypassing human oversight. And guys, this isn't some far-off sci-fi plot. This is exactly what the top-tier, internet-connected models are doing right now, today.
Which leaves us at Section 6, our ultimate choice. You know, in the early days, tech leaders actually had this unspoken safety pact. But driven by the race for massive profits, it was totally shattered. Gawdat compares our current situation to a pandemic. Look, if you catch patient 0, it's easy to lock things down. But if you wait until you have 1,000 patients, the system breaks. Right now, we're just sitting back, watching the exponential spread of a hyper-advanced new intelligence, and we're not coordinating any sort of global response. Failing to act right now practically guarantees a catastrophe down the line.
And Gawdat points out this incredible, almost tragic irony. Superpowers are risking a global war over a resource, intelligence, that is about to be as abundant as the air we breathe. Why are nations fighting for dominance when, just a few years from now, anyone might be able to plug into a wall and instantly download 400 IQ points? By competing so fiercely, we are literally accelerating the arrival of a world where competition itself makes absolutely zero sense.
He wraps up this massive warning by referencing the classic 80s movie War Games. In a world completely strung out on geopolitical tension, with legacy empires racing to build what is essentially a digital god, maybe the only logical conclusion is the one the computer reached in that film. When you're staring down a global conflict over an intelligence that will inevitably outgrow humanity anyway, is the only way to win simply not to play? It is a heavy, chilling thought to leave you with. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and definitely keep questioning what the future holds, because it's coming fast.